In the late 90s, there was a New York Times bestseller entitled Tuesdays of Mourning. The book tells the story of a student who reconnects with a former professor after the professor is diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It chronicles the progression of the disease as well as the progression of the relationship between the student and his former professor as they discuss life and life lessons. When I read this book in the late 90s, I had no idea that one day I would create my own story. I would call my story Twice a Week with Thom. It would have 3 chapters: Be Strong and Courageous, Results, Not Reasons, and Never, Never, Never Give Up. Chapter 1, Be Strong and Courageous. General Thomas Mikolajczyk came to my physical therapy clinic twice a week because he was having more difficulty with everyday tasks. He was diagnosed with ALS in 2003. He went home and did an internet search and discovered that 5,000 Americans a year are diagnosed with ALS. And of those 5,000, half of them will die within 3 years. ALS is a progressive neurological disease that affects the nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord, resulting in the loss of control of the muscles in the shoulders and hips, progressing down to the hands and feet. Eventually, patients become paralyzed and lose the ability to control the muscles that allow them to breathe. There is no known cause or cure for ALS. Thomas Mikolajczyk was a devout Catholic, and one of his favorite verses in the Bible began, "Be strong and courageous." It was a motto for him. Despite this depressing news, when he came for therapy, he was always upbeat. He always started our sessions with a joke. Instead of choosing to spend his last years surrounded by friends and family, he chose to spend his last years as an advocate for patients with ALS. Chapter 2, Results, Not Reasons. I knew whenever Thom came in for therapy, I needed to bring my A game. Not just the activities that I did with him to help him to do his tasks better and to get stronger, but also in my private life. When he came in for therapy, we would discuss his life, how when he was stationed in Italy, he had an audience with the Pope and the Pope blessed his children, or that he was stationed in Germany during the fall of the Berlin Wall. We would talk about my life. I had just bought a house and was painting all of the rooms. "Are you finished with that kitchen yet?" he asked me. "No, not yet. I've been so busy with work." "I want results, not reasons." I spent all weekend painting my kitchen so that on Tuesday I could tell him, "Yes, Thom, I did finish my kitchen this weekend." You couldn't lie to him. He had these piercing blue eyes that seemed to cut to your soul. He knew if you even thought about lying to him. But I got to return the favor. One day, Thom called me up and said he couldn't make his appointment today because he had another engagement. "Thom, that's not good enough. I want results, not reasons." I know, he said, "but I just can't make it. Vice President Dick Cheney is flying into the Charleston airport today, and I've been assigned to pick him up." I couldn't argue with that one. Chapter 3, Never, Never, Never Give Up. This quote by Winston Churchill was one of his favorites, and Thom certainly never, never, never gave up. When he did his internet search, he discovered that although there was a National ALS Foundation, there was no chapter in the entire state of South Carolina. He got the forms he needed, he called people, and was able to get a board of directors and establish a charter ALS Foundation chapter in the state of South Carolina, as well as an ALS clinic, the only clinic in the state of South Carolina where ALS patients could come and meet with their doctors, neurologists, therapists, dietitians, all in one day. He discovered that veterans were 60% more likely than non-veterans to be diagnosed with ALS. Gulf War veterans are twice as likely as non-veterans to be diagnosed with ALS, and that ALS is the only named disease on the list of the Gulf War syndrome. Despite all of this, Thom had to go regularly to the VA each year, undergo a series of tests to get his percent of disability to determine what medical benefits he was entitled to. He came for physical therapy twice a week, and the VA TRICARE began to deny further visits. I wrote letters, I made phone calls, and we would get a few months at a time. Eventually, all my phone calls and all my letters came out empty. It was a dead end. I had to tell Thom that he could not get any more physical therapy. But I need this, he said. I know, I've done all I can. Thom said, I need to make a phone call. A week later, a letter came over on the fax machine. It was addressed from the Pentagon. Thom was approved for 2 years' worth of physical therapy visits. He had connections I simply didn't have. He had a similar difficulty obtaining a power wheelchair so he could be more autonomous at home, other medical care, and a private caregiver. He traveled to Washington, D.C. 3 times to visit the Pentagon as well as Congress. The last time was in 2007, where he testified before a congressional committee to change the medical benefits for veterans with ALS. The next year, in 2008, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs established ALS as a service-connected disability, enabling veterans with ALS full benefits for medical necessities. Thom worked hard for benefits that he knew he would most likely not live long enough to benefit from. He told me once, God has given me a cross to bear, but he allows me to still have the energy, the faculties, and the voice to maybe make a difference, help others, or raise awareness. He passed away on April 17th of last year. When I think about Thom, I ask myself, am I using my energy, faculties, and voice to make a difference today? Am I strong and courageous? Do I deliver results, not reasons? And do I never, never, never give up?